Hello YouTube, welcome to my second video. This one's one that I've wanted to make for quite a while now on the muscle up. You can see my form is a little bit rusty as I've not done these for quite some time, and I'm a little heavier than I used to be a year or so ago. But anyway, I hope you enjoy this one, and as always, just fire me a DM on Instagram if you have any more questions. Going to get straight into it with the most important bit here. This is the false grip. I'm going to loop this bit of footage because it's really important to get your head around this. Gripping down at the top and making sure your wrist is sitting on top of the ring. This is different from a straight bar muscle up, and for me it was a little bit easier to learn. Here are some rows which are a good way to kind of condition that false grip in the early days, because injuries in the forearm aren't fun. It's really important to build a strong foundation in your pull-ups first. So a good 5 sets of 5 reps here, my thumb to chest, fairly explosive as well. It's going to be really important before you move on to the more advanced moves. When I was learning, I built up to these false grip chin-ups, the same grip that we discussed at the beginning of the video. Now really these you can start to add in as soon as you're comfortable with your normal chin-ups. Next is the dips, and these again you want to get comfortable doing, so 5 sets of 5. Just to build up a nice foundation, going as deep as is comfortable. Now this is going to be really important for kind of that muscle up transition phase, especially in the deepest bit of the dip, just getting comfortable, bringing yourself up from that position and into the top of the dip with the rings turned out. Once you're comfortable with your dips and chin-ups, you can experiment with a few of these negatives at the end of your session. So basically just jumping into the top position, bringing the rings in close, and basically doing a reverse muscle up from the top down, just to get used to the kind of position your hand needs to be in. These can also be done with these false grip kind of half muscle ups with your feet on the floor in a sort of pike position. Finally, the muscle up itself, I mean, once you kind of get to a point where you feel like you might be able to try it safely, then kind of really focus on that pull up. You can see how I bring the rings really close together. And I mean, if you fail, I just say don't do it too high, so you can put your feet down on the floor to stop you. The main thing you'll find at the beginning will be the friction on your skin, so it's kind of advisable to use a little bit of chalk, and if you do see your skin starting to go, maybe wrap on a bit of climbing tape towards the end of your sets, just to kind of, and then you can slowly wean yourself off that tape. But yeah, the muscle up in general was something that came at the end of a long shoulder injury period for me. So I kind of really focused on the basics, and that's kind of what I'd advise doing, is really don't rush it and build up a really strong foundation. Just a few extra bits I threw in. I always like to do it with mobility and handstand work in all sessions. So here we've just got some weight shifts, which is what I've been working on recently, kind of shifting the weight from hand to hand. You can't really see it in the video, but you can definitely feel it when you're upside down. I believe this was a 15 seconds one each side. This is a build up to one arm handstand. I mean, the amount I'm working on it, I'm really not working on it enough to sort of get to that level, but I find it's a nice amount of hand balancing training for me. Yeah, just shifting onto the left side here. One thing I would say, if you're practicing hand balancing and muscle ups, is just beware of fatigue in your forearms, because I did sort of overtrain back in the day and did myself an injury kind of not listening to a bit of tiredness in my forearms. This next bit is some hanging. I mean, this is advisable for anyone doing sort of any upper body work, just to get really comfortable hanging from a bar, kind of in an active position, bringing your shoulder blades down towards the floor, and almost kind of bending the bar as you do so. This is just a kind of great way to condition your wrists and general shoulder girdle. I mean, I'm not a physio, but I think this is the one thing that helped me massively when I had some ligament tears in my right shoulder a while back. And then lastly, a bit of lower body work here, some old head to toe stretching that I've been keeping up. Just a nice way to kind of get that forward flexion and get the hamstrings nice and loose, mainly for handstand pressing work, but also just kind of general athleticism and squatting. This next one, I believe, is it's hard to know when I'm kind of doing this free form, but this is a pancake stretch. So again, a kind of another one that goes along nicely with the middle split. Again, just sometimes I'll do a more active split, sort of standing and holding my weight, and sometimes I'll just do a pancake stretch to open up my hips, especially important if you work at a desk all day. And lastly, I think just a bit of a messing around in a tuck handstand, quite a nice way to open up thoracic spine, and just generally it's kind of goes. I found overhead squats recently have been really helping me with this kind of overhead mobility work. Any of the yogis watching, I managed to go down from a tuck into a crow pose the other day, which was a bit of a revelation to me, as I didn't realise I'd was able to do it. It's kind of a highlight an important point about the importance of kind of regular scheduled training, but also, you know, having a bit of time towards the end of your session to play around with things, and sometimes that's when you can kind of have those eureka moments and unlock a movement that you didn't realise you could do before. Last but not least, you have some incredibly sloppy, actually, handstand press work. My legs are a lot heavier at the moment from quite a bit more squatting work, and yeah, it's just not really been a focus, so that, you know, the legs on the way up should be straight, but I've just been keeping it in my routine just to kind of keep the movement pattern fairly well oiled, and at the bottom of the movement here is the kind of the straddle sit. I used to be able to get my legs fairly straight in this, and the idea is to kind of eventually one day piece the press seamlessly down into a straddle, but again, just kind of maintaining that one to keep the core strength. That's it. Be sure to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.